This is Profit Boss Radio. I'm Hillary Hendershot, your host, and this is episode 77. Profit Boss Radio is your weekly wealth mastermind. Profit Boss is also a community and a movement for women who are ready to take control of their money, break the glass ceiling, and give ourselves permission to finally have enough. Want the secrets of wealth to be yours? This is the place. I'm Hillary Hendershot. I'm a certified financial planner running a leading advisory firm for women, and I'm sharing with you real stories from real life and real women who are making it happen. Forget Wall Street. Let's do this, ladies. Welcome to the 7 Steps to Wealth. I think you're really going to like today's episode. I put a lot of time and effort into it because it's going to become an anchor episode. And what that means is that I'll refer back to it over time. We'll talk about the ideas that get presented today from now on. The 7 Steps to Wealth are going to become the guiding principles for being a profit boss. So just like if you run a company or if you work for a great company, you take the time to articulate your company values and then you let those values guide your decision making. For example, my company has 5 really cool company values. I wrote them, so I love them. And we as a team, me and my team, we talk about those company values. We have a bi-weekly team huddle. There's a section in the agenda for that meeting where we're supposed to acknowledge team members for having embodied the company values. So we bring them up over time and we talk about them. Having guiding principles is a really powerful way to manifest results in your life. And I want to give you really simple and enduring ways to internalize the principles of a healthy financial life. So these are going to become our own values, like the values of the tribe. And I know what some of you think when you see the title of the episode, The 7 Steps to Wealth. 7 steps to whatever, right? It's like I pulled it from the Huffington Post. It's oversimplified. Maybe it makes you think it's going to be too simple. Believe me, I know. I really used to think the same way. I hated headlines like that, titles like that, but you know, they grab people's attention and I wanted this to be a really clear framework that we could refer back to. You know, I promise you, this is not going to be an oversimplified conversation. So after writing this content, I realized I could literally pull every single past episode of Profit Boss Radio through the framework of these 7 steps. And I could also talk or find people to interview for the rest of my life about each of them. I could talk about them or interview people about them. So there's no episode of Profit Boss Radio that couldn't be viewed through the lens of one or more of these steps. Every story of financial failure you've ever heard was as a result of failure to execute on one or more of these steps. Finally, if you learn and internalize and embody these 7 steps, you'll be totally empowered financially and you will achieve financial freedom. Toward the end of this year, I'll be launching a very high-touch coaching program that's designed to completely transform clients' financial lives. And all we're going to do is master these 7 steps. And as Mariana in the Profit Boss Facebook group said when I mentioned this episode, for her, and I know for many of you, the steps to wealth are like the steps to losing weight. We all know how to eat less and exercise more, but for many people, it's still totally out of reach. And that's a sign that your money block is your mind. You could think of it as your money psychology. I call it your money operating system. And we're going to talk about all of that today. So you know, my intention with everything that I'm doing, Profit Boss Radio, Profit Boss the Facebook group, even the Profit Boss weekly newsletter, my intention is to empower you to win the money game. I don't really want you to listen to Profit Boss Radio your whole life. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love that you're here. And I want you to master this stuff so you can build up enough savings that you consider hiring me as your financial advisor and then go on to master new things. Pick up a Spanish podcast, take a cooking class, travel. I mean, if you love Profit Boss Radio and you want to stay, I love you for that. But the point is that mastering money is a learnable skill. Once the habits are in place and you can say you have money handled, you can put your attention somewhere else as long as you keep in place the practices that work. And the thing about money is that all these 7 steps are critical. Not doing just one of them puts all of the rest of them at risk. Remember those old strings of lights on the Christmas tree? And if one bulb went out, the whole string would go out. I think they were called circuit strings or something. I think the word circuit was in there. So if your string of lights went out, you'd have to find that one bad bulb because the whole string would be out and you'd have to replace just that one bad bulb and then the whole string would come back on. So just like that string of Christmas lights, you really do have to keep all the steps to wealth alive and well and functioning. So you can create systems so that they're in the background and running without daily effort from you. And we'll talk about that as we go through all these steps. I want you to understand how much I want this for you. Whenever I speak in public, I put on the first slide of a slide deck on the screen, and I put a picture of my little baby, the divine Miss Harlan, my 15-month-old, and I say, this is the why that I can put on the screen, but my bigger why is you. And if you're listening to this, you are my why. I haven't talked about on the show for a while how this all started out for me when I nearly ruined myself financially. I know what that feels like. You may not be in financial ruin, but I was almost there. And I don't want that for you. I was a terrible overspender. And it was the process of correcting that and recovering from it that inspired this vision for me that I could make a difference for people. Kind of like, okay, I'll take one for the team. I recovered from that and now I can show you what I learned so you don't have to, and we can all have success together. When I finally figured out that I wasn't flawed or broken, that I just had a money operating system problem, it was like a light bulb turned on for me. So I am totally committed to people having the opportunity to experience freedom, choice, and dignity. And that's really what wealth and financial freedom make possible. On the wall of my new office in downtown San Jose is painted the company vision. It says, creating a world where everyone in it has enough. And that really is what's behind all this for me. So what are we all actually here for? We're here for financial freedom, right? I use the terms retirement and financial freedom interchangeably because they're really the same thing. Financial freedom is when the income from your assets or business interests can replace your earned income for the rest of your life. In other words, you can stop working or you can work only when you want to. That's the dream, right? Financial success isn't mysterious and it's not out of reach for you unless you believe that it is. It's possible for you if you commit to it today. And I want to walk you through the 7 steps that will enable it. So let's do this. The first step is decide. You got to decide to be rich. So you have to decide to do the things that you have to do to achieve financial freedom. Everybody wants financial success, but so many people get stuck because they haven't decided to actually follow the rules. It's like me. I really haven't decided to follow the rules of being lean and healthy because I'm still angry at the universe that I can't drink wine and eat pizza and have exactly the body that I want. And that's what I mean when I invite you to decide. If you aren't saving and instead you spend your money on clothes and vacations, you just haven't decided to be rich. And I know that there are many people out there with a mindset about money that it's bad to chase the result of money or that money is a shallow end. And so you really struggle with yourself. You're like at odds with yourself. You want financial independence, but you've made it up that it's immoral or sort of lowbrow to go after it. And that's a mental conflict that also comes down to the money operating system. And we've got to get that resolved for you. So, so many times I hear people ask me questions about money and I think to myself, you're kind of asking the wrong questions. I'll give you an example. One time, a couple paid me to consult with them about their family finances. So they said, look, we've got all this credit card debt and we really want to buy a house. And here's all the reasons why we need to buy a house. So should we take a, $75,000 loan from our family to pay off the credit card debt? So then it's off of our books and then we can qualify to buy a house and then we can pay off the family loan. And I thought, well, that's an interesting question. And I looked at their statements and, every single month they're spending way more than they make. Obviously they have $75,000 in credit card debt. So they have all these expenses, restaurants, houses, cars, trips, horses. I said to them, look, every single day you're getting further and further away from where you want to be. And the question you're asking me won't get you closer. So, they were asking the wrong questions, and it was because really they hadn't yet decided to be rich. So you have to understand what's driving the decisions you're making. Let me share with you what I mean. In my 2013 TED Talk, I told just one of the stories, but it's a pivotal one of my own financial disaster. So I'll tell it to you now. So there I am, pulling into the gas station to get gas. The tank is empty. I'm in my gorgeous BMW convertible, which is 100% owned by the credit union and rented back to me for a high monthly payment. I put my credit card into the machine and it gets declined. I panic. I try another card and another, but they're all declined too. My credit cards were all maxed out and my bank accounts were empty. For me, that was the end of the line. And thinking back, man, I'm so embarrassed. I'm humiliated. I'm ashamed. And, I know things need to change. See, I was a chronic overspender, but until that moment, my earning ability had somehow kept up with my spending habit. So I walked home from the gas station that day in my 3-inch heels. And on that long, painful walk home, I was talking to myself and I'm saying, oh man, this is a big mess I got myself in. And my feet are in pain from those heels. I'm getting blisters. And I know that my financial mindset was totally bankrupt at that point in my life. And that really is what I had to accept, that the rules I had been playing by had to change. So that was really the moment when I said to myself, I don't know how, but I'm going to figure this money thing out. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're saying, Hillary, I can't decide to be rich because I don't know how, I get it. I was in the same place. And literally what I said to myself in that moment was, I don't know how to do this, but I am going to figure it out. I'm smart, I'm educated, and I have really good intentions. Just right now, I have really bad results. So I decided to learn more about how and why we act the way that we act around money. I decided to become an expert on behavioral finance and money psychology. I read what the neuropsychologists and behavioral finance experts already know about the difference between people who want financial freedom and never get it and the people who do. And I discovered the hole in my financial bucket. See, instead of being engaged in the process of being financially healthy, I was actually engaged in the project of proving to other people that I was already there. I had the emblems of wealth confused with the reality of wealth, and I was emptying my bank accounts, playing a very destructive financial game. So I just got really committed to producing different results. I decided to chase financial health instead of social approval. And I did put what I learned into practice, and I really did turn things around in my financial life. So at this point in my life, many years later, I've obviously rebuilt the bank accounts and the retirement savings. I run this business that I love. My husband and I bought a house in Silicon Valley this year. I could sell the business that I've built for multiple 7 figures. So I really have changed my financial trajectory. And you may not see yourself in the troubles of my financial past. Like your life might not look like mine, but wherever you are financially, and I know that you're listening to this podcast, so there's something that you want in your money life. It's a function of what's going on upstairs. But I mean, in your psychology, right? In your mind, it's upstairs. That is a universally understood term, right? It really comes down to your core money belief, something that got installed when you were a child, and that core money belief has run everything ever since. It gives birth to all your other money beliefs and money blocks. I call this core money belief your money operating system. It's a very simple script or statement. I've talked about it a lot on this podcast. It's something like, there's never enough money. That's a really popular one. It's actually one of mine. I have 2 other money operating systems include there's always enough money, the exact opposite. And believe it or not, some people believe there's always enough money. Some people believe there's never enough money. And another one is money is bad or money is evil. Also, if I were a good person, the universe, if I'm just good, the universe will give me what I need. There are more of those. And if you want to know more about the money operating system, just go back and listen to episode 8, which is called Upgrading Your Money Operating System. If you'd like to do that now, you can just hit pause and come back to this episode. So I know that there's a lot of money coaches out there and a lot of experts talk about money blocks, kind of like they're a minefield, like they're spread out all over your life and they need to be discovered and dealt with individually. But I want you to just try on this paradigm for the purposes of just this podcast or this lesson, or just try on this way of thinking. So your money operating system is like the seed, and all of your other money actions, behaviors, beliefs, blocks come from that seed. Okay. It's your money operating system is a core belief. It's a really simple, strongly held belief. And it's at the center of your money life. For you, it's how money is. It's what's true about money. It dictates how things go. And you've got lots of things that you believe about money and yourself. These are all things other money coaches refer to as other money blocks, like they're the same, like they're on the same level. But here's the thing about those blocks. They're all in alignment with your core money operating system. So your money operating system actually gives birth to your entire money life, and you're going to have a very deeply interconnected network of thoughts, behaviors, and actions that all align with your core money operating system. So your brain cannot hold contradictory information for more than a few moments. So there's probably dozens, if not hundreds of beliefs that tie into, reinforce, and support your core money operating system. So let me give you an example from my life. My money operating systems were there's never enough money and money gives me value, or something like money is the measure of my value in the world. So the system of beliefs that supported these operating systems included believing and sometimes saying the following things. I will never earn a high income because I got a Bachelor of Arts in Economics, not a Bachelor of Science. That seems crazy, but I really believed it was true. Rich people are special and lucky, and I'm neither of those. If I don't have the right car, people will think I'm worthless. If I pay for dinner for all these people right now, they will like me. If I try to negotiate for that, he'll think I'm poor and therefore worthless. I have no idea how to get them to give me a raise. Even though I don't have enough money in my bank to buy this right now, I'm going to, because I just need it to feel good and free and liberated. So if you really listen to those money beliefs, those statements that were true for me about money, you can see not only the kind of behavior that they lead to, the kind of destructive behavior that they lead to, but you can also see how they all dovetail really nicely with the core beliefs of there's never enough money because I was always spending all the money that I had to prove I wasn't worthless because I thought that money made me valuable. And then one day I just decided I was done, right? That BMW being stuck in a gas station was rock bottom for me. I was sick to death of all the misery all of this nonsense was causing. And I decided to change things. And it's a powerful moment when my clients decide they're going to have financial health and wealth. I mean, it really moves me. So right now, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I can't just decide to be rich because no part of me believes I can be rich. Now you know that that's only there because you decided something that was true about money or you in your past. And now that's your money operating system. And you can actually decide, like fully commit and lean into the commitment of having decided without actually knowing how you'll get there. And that's what I invite you to do right now. Step 2 is plan. To be honest with you, most people never accomplish this step. So I could call this saving, or I could call it spending less than you make. But those two things are just two sides of the same coin. Okay. Money comes in and it either goes to one of three places: taxes, saving, or spending. Taxes are predetermined. So what you don't spend, you save, and vice versa. So whichever one you choose consciously dictates the other. Most people choose spending first, so they save what's left, which is typically not much, and then they spend their whole lives being dominated by this math. Like me being dominated by the fact that I cannot drink wine and eat pizza and have the body and health that I want. We let anger or resistance or confusion or subconscious stuff that has nothing to do with money run the show. So most people are stuck either in step 1 or step 2. And that's why if you read the media about how ill-prepared for retirement Americans are, this is why, because they never get through step 1 or step 2. The beginning of having a plan, a wealth plan, is deciding to make the trade-off between today and tomorrow by putting money into a savings or investment account instead of spending it. Of course, you know that you have to spend less than you make, but it's not really a step. It's more of a necessary but not sufficient condition to achieve financial success. Okay, it's like the law of gravity, and it doesn't care how high your income is. I know a couple who makes $1 million a year and every year spends 1.2. And there's really not that much to say about it because you're either saving or you're not. And if you're not sure, my experience is you're probably not. And life is expensive. And there's this thing called expense creep or budget creep, right? Scope creep. Basically, things tend to expand the size of the space you give them. So if you open up your whole checking account to spending every 2 weeks, and that's all your paycheck, then probably you spend your whole paycheck. So I recommend that you automate your cash flow. I've talked about this before on the podcast as well. Cash flow is literally the flow of money into and out of your accounts as you earn and spend it. Automation allows you to save automatically for things like vacations and your next car, so your goals are getting funded without you thinking about it. This makes managing spending really easy because you can fund just one checking account that spending comes out of. Financial automation really takes the drama out of your financial life. And I have many, many multimillionaire clients who swear by this system of managing their cash flow. So whether you automate or not, you really are the one who configures all the obligations in your life, like rent, food, car, tuition for the kids, clothes, travel, gifts. And you get to say how much those expenses are. Most people think they have an income problem. Most people think they don't earn enough money, but in reality, they actually have a spending problem. So people who have a wealth plan spend less and save consistently. It doesn't have to be every single month, but it probably should be. Folks like real estate agents who have pretty inconsistent income, it can be 0 for months and then they get a check for 6 figures. That's totally different. These folks have to predetermine what percentage of every check is going to get saved. And then implicit in really truly beginning with step number 1, decide, and coming to fruition in step number 2, and never disappearing throughout the entire process of getting wealthy, financially independent, and staying there is a sense of personal accountability. And I mean, really being responsible for your results in life. And that means not being a victim to the past. That means you look around you and you say, look, I have control over this. It's my decisions that are the rudder of the ship. And I believe I've quoted Steve Siebold on this podcast before, but he wrote a book called How Rich People Think. And he interviewed, I think, 1,000 millionaires. And his number one conclusion, the number one predictor of wealth, was a sense of personal accountability. He said, rich people believe they're responsible for their results. And you really can't get out of that when it comes to being financially independent. So being responsible, taking responsibility for your life can feel like a burden. Kind of the interesting outcome of that, or the interesting other side of that coin, is that taking responsibility is really the only way to get true freedom. I mean, just look at, if you're a business owner, you're responsible for everything. You're responsible for paying the bills, for selling, for delivering the service. But on the other side of the coin, you can take 2 weeks off. You don't have to ask anybody, right? So if you spend money that you know you shouldn't, you really can't get on alignment with your plan, your wealth plan. I invite you to consider that unwitting spending may not be a willpower thing. Again, power of the mind. So I'll give you a couple examples. First, you have my story, which I already told you. I was spending money, literally to live the life of a rich person. Like I wanted to look like I was rich, but I missed the point that being rich isn't about how much you get to spend. It's really about how much you get to keep. For me, I had to give up that my value as a human being was a function of whether other people thought that I was already successful and rich. So those two are really synonymous to me. So it's so funny in life how you have to give up your attachment to being something in order to actually achieve it, right? So have you ever known someone who really wanted to be admired, who actually was admired? No. Admirable people don't care what you think of them. They're just living their life in tune with their own principles and values. And they, no longer are trying to impress people or look good. And that's what makes them admirable. Next, I'll tell you about a business owner I know named Donna. Donna runs a successful event planning business, and she takes home like $250,000 a year. So she maxes out her SEP IRA, but her experience was she just couldn't manage to save more than that. She knew she needed to save more and she couldn't do it. She couldn't figure out where her money was going. She was very emotional about it. She even was carrying some credit card debt. What we saw was that she was spending tens of thousands of dollars a year on clothing, trips, and dinners out all by herself. What Donna finally saw was that spending money had become a substitute for companionship and friendship. She felt unloved. So spending that money on herself like that was giving her temporary satisfaction, temporary love. As she began to make efforts to see old friends and make new ones, she stopped needing to spend so much on Epicurean desires, and she found that she was finally able to pay off that credit card debt and increase her net worth. I tell you this story because there really is a widespread myth in our society that overspenders are irresponsible or short-sighted, and that just isn't the case. Money can be really, really metaphorical in our lives. So I interviewed Allie Brown, who's a fantastic, super successful business coach. She's also the star of ABC's The Secret Millionaire. I interviewed her here on Profit Boss Radio, and I said to her, what differentiates the top coaches in the world? And she said, look, all effective coaching starts with goals. You have to know where you're headed. And I agree with her. And in your financial life, knowing where you're headed looks like having a wealth plan. So Charles Schwab recently reported that people with a written financial plan are 60% more likely to increase their savings rate over time and twice as likely to stick to their savings plan than those who don't write it down. And yet, only 24% of Americans say they have a wealth plan in writing. In fact, more Americans on average played the lottery this year than created a wealth plan. Pretty sad. So in the beginning, you manage your wealth plan on your own. Your accountability partners in your wealth plan can be your spouse or business partner. And then as you become more successful, you bring on a team of advisors, your tax preparer, your family attorney, and your financial advisor. These are the people on your wealth team. Just like you have a business plan, maybe if you don't have a business, you have a family plan, and you also need a wealth plan. So this is a lot of the work that I do with clients, is making sure they're on track to achieve the things that are important to them. And it's clients at every level, those just starting out and those in the golden years of their life who also need to know that they're not going to outlive their money. And I can't really overstate this, but you've got to know your net worth. To do this, I recommend using a financial dashboard to manage your wealth plan. And if you don't already have one, boy, do I have something exciting for you. A financial dashboard allows you to track your bank accounts, categorize your spending, track real estate and mortgages, and your investments and your credit cards, and see it all in one place at your fingertips. I think we can all agree that having one location, both on the web and on your mobile device, to view your entire financial picture saves you time and frustration. It also empowers you to take control. To give you a powerful tool and advantage in getting clarity and control of your money, and to see and track your wealth plan at your fingertips, I am offering to you, and only you, the Profit Boss audience for now, exclusive access to the eMoney Financial Dashboard for free. To access this free offer, just go to hillaryhendershot.com/eMoney. As my thank you for listening to Profit Boss Radio, I want to help you take the guesswork out of managing your money and provide you with a personal and secure eMoney portal that's easy to use and, best of all, free to you as a Profit Boss listener. My motto is that you are the CEO of your finances, and I want to be your personal CFO. As the CEO, you want a dashboard that gives you a real-time look at your accounts and informs you of the most important information you need to know with no hassle. This is the same technology I make available to my comprehensive financial planning clients. It has superior security with 256-bit secure socket layer encryption. They literally have a team of experts trying to hack the system at all times, but nobody has ever succeeded, and it's a VeriSign secure site. The portal itself is totally non-transactional, so nobody can move, withdraw, or access your money. It simply puts all the same data that's already online in one place so you can view it. You do input your various passwords, and those are kept private and only ever accessible to you, sort of like mint.com, but with a lot more planning power. Full disclosure, because I am the advisor behind the scenes, my team and I could potentially run across your account balances. If you want, you can mask transaction data, but account balances are visible. But listen, they're visible to the folks at mint.com or Personal Capital or any other financial dashboard you might be using. I'm here because I truly want you to be successful, and I'm not going to do wrong by you. Everything about Profit Boss, the movement, and the podcast has been about going from the dark to the light, taking money out of the realm of private and closed doors and putting everything on the table. And you can trust me and my team to safeguard your information. Having a wealth plan in place is one of the 7 key steps to wealth, and the eMoney Financial Dashboard is a powerful tool that makes that possible. Interactive workshop tools can help you see how changes in savings and investments today affect your future retirement goals. And that really puts you in the driver's seat. I'm proud to offer you this tool, and I hope that you'll take advantage of it now. To request access, please go to hillaryhendershot.com/emoney. So then after you've created your financial dashboard and started working within your plan, life often becomes more complex. I dig into the details with my clients to make sure everything is accounted for. For example, what date do you want to cross the finish line? The financial independence finish line. And do you have other financial goals in the meantime, like buying a home or sending your kids to college? Do you expect any inheritances? Do you expect to financially support anyone you love? Then we look at the expected growth rates of your investments and assets, your current savings rate. We estimate how much each of your investments can pay you in retirement. We look at how much cash flow you need to be comfortable. We estimate inflation, make sure you're on track to achieve your goals, and now you have a wealth plan. Now that you know how you're tracking to the plan, you can turn the dials. And when you're in the driver's seat of the process is when you've completed step 2. Step 3 is speak. This step is about becoming conscious of how you talk about money to yourself and other people. This really touches on all aspects of your financial life. To be honest, the plan step and the speak step actually happen hand in hand with one another unless you naturally inherited an empowered money operating system. You really can't live within a wealth plan without altering your dialogue about money otherwise. For example, if you react to the phrase I've been using in this episode about being rich, you're having a reaction to that phrase. Like I keep saying to you, you haven't decided to be rich, or you should decide that you want to be rich. If you're having a reaction, you can't bring yourself to say, yeah, I want to be rich, because you're thinking, oh my God, I could never say that out loud. Or that's a little bold, Hillary. It's a little gratuitous. I'm not like the CEO type. I just need the simple things in life. And that's completely fine as long as you don't believe that there's anything wrong with being rich or wanting to be rich. And you may language it like, I want to be financially free, or I want to be free of anxiety. And that's fine too. But again, I just want to check in and make sure that you don't think there's anything wrong with being rich or wanting to be rich, because that would be a money operating system problem. And so if that's the case, if you want to live simply, you should do that. Go ahead and right size your spending so you're living simply and you're happy with that life. But then you also have this financial need to achieve financial independence. You need this nest egg. You need this savings amount. You need this amount of money. And I don't know many people in today's society who can achieve financial independence without having at least $1 million. And to most people, that's rich. So you may have some assumptions that you'll be wanting to adjust. So unfortunately, we live in a society where the commonly held belief is that money is a private issue. I know families and friends who absolutely will not talk about it publicly and won't consider that not talking about it is actually hurting them. But it's totally obvious that not talking about money is hurting us. I mean, talking is what makes us human. It's what makes us the superior species. It's what has led to every single technological development we now enjoy. I mean, imagine trying to build a business if you couldn't communicate. Imagine getting someone to go on a date with you if you couldn't ask them. I mean, it's totally obvious that we'd all be better off financially if we could openly communicate, and we just don't really realize how, for most of us, our mind is a little money prison. So I recommend you create or join a wealth mastermind so that you can stop talking to just yourself about money. Talking with other people gets you out of your mind and into reality and life, and some of the things you'll say about money when you're invited to speak out loud loud and freely might just surprise you. Here are some examples of things you'll want to stop saying and thinking about money. Money is complicated. Money is overwhelming. I can't afford that. I'm jealous she makes more than me. My husband is better at the numbers than I am, so I just let him do it. Money means something about me. It's not safe for me to be rich. It's not safe for me to want to be rich. Here are some empowered things you can say about money to replace those things. I wonder how I can bring more money into my life. I wonder why money has gone the way it has gone for me in the past. I'm not going to put that in my spending plan. I checked in with myself, and if I accept your offer, I won't feel well compensated. What kind of return is my savings earning right now? And everyone around me has the opportunity to be wealthy, including me. The point here, folks, is to become aware of and present to what you're saying about money. For most people, this means beginning for the first time to talk out loud about money. For so many of us, we're only talking to ourselves about money, maybe potentially to our partners about money. And it is that dialogue that's giving rise to your experience of money. It may very well seem like talking about money is a very small piece of your experience, but I promise you, it's actually formative, if not creationary. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm pretty sure you know what I'm saying. So that's step 3, which is speak. And now for step 4, which is ask. So what do I mean ask for wealth? This is where leverage begins. So I mean the kind of asking that comes with the experience of delivery, like a pulling for or a calling for, like creating a game in your life called expansion of wealth. Not an expectation that the world provide for you without your participation, but like we all know in this life that there are the kinds of results that you can produce on your own, and then the kinds of results you need the partnership or agreement of other people to accomplish. After all, we all have the same amount of time in the world, so how come some people accomplish so much versus some people accomplish, frankly, so little? Well, because the people who produce incredible results in the world know and have accepted that anything worth giving their life to, anything worth really being proud of, takes like a partnership, a team, a tribe, or a community. It takes other people. You can do way more in the world when you're not on your own. The people who produce miracles lead organizations, efforts, teams, and partnerships. So this step that I call ask is really about you asking for and wanting and expecting your results in life to get better and better over time. This naturally happens in most people's lives without them even doing anything about it, because our 40s and 50s are our highest earning decades. That's because income tends to go up over time. I mean, not for everybody, but for most people, that's true. The kinds of things the ask step includes are asking for a raise, increasing your prices, any form of negotiating, building business partnerships, doing what it takes to increase your technical skill set with the intention of raising your market value, fine-tuning profit to increase the value of your business. These things seem kind of big, but some more micro examples are like creating a nanny share to decrease your household childcare expenses. I did that this year, and I had to ask my nanny, and I had to ask the other parents of that other baby for that situation to work out. So that was me asking. And you probably have a friend who's always talking about their next opportunity, next investment, next business plan, their next idea. That person is engaged in asking the world for more and more. And, maybe you should spend more time with them. I mean, assuming their projects are actually fruitful. So they may be the kind of person that they're always in action. They've always got a new hot, bright idea. They're always going to do some new thing, but it never seems to pan out. You want to pay attention to that too. I mean, everybody has failures, but sometimes people try the same thing over and over again and get bad results every time. They just keep trying. So obviously you don't want to emulate that. Money requires integrity, right? And I'm not saying everyone who tries and fails lacks integrity, but some of those folks are looking for get rich quick schemes, and those just don't ever pan out in the long run. So get yourself to a place where when you do the ask, this is key, okay? Get yourself to the place where when you do the ask, when you ask someone for a partnership or employment or for them to be employed by you or to create a company together, whatever you're asking for, you are 100% convinced that that person will be better off if they do what you want them to do. So for example, if I were to take on a business partner and that would mean that we're able to build a company that's 10x as big as the one I have now, then obviously we're both better off. And if I had that vision when I created that invitation, when I said to that person, we should partner, then I would be 100% convinced that we'd both be better off. Negotiating is really important, and it really only applies when the kind of thing where you want me to pay more and I want to pay less. So it's kind of not a win-win. And a lot of collaboration isn't like that. So I know the topic of negotiating for a higher wage is a really hot topic right now. And I've done episodes about negotiating on Profit Boss Radio. And I just wanted to draw the distinction between collaboration and negotiation. So the first principle to asking is knowing what you have to offer and knowing what you want to get out of it. So here are some examples of asking. Bringing in a business partner, asking someone to mentor you, building an executive team for your company, asking venture capitalists to invest in your company, asking your uncle to invest in your company, asking your husband where the investment accounts are, asking your friend to make something you can sell at the charity auction, asking someone to refer you business in exchange for an affiliate share or commission, asking someone to carpool with you, and negotiating the price of your new car. Remember, asking is conceptual. It's about always wanting your own life to get bigger and better and to expand and improve, but it's also tactical. Really is those conversations that you have with other people that create opportunities and projects. And that's step 4. Step 5 is earn. Ask comes before earn because you're going to start in the working world earning whatever you start earning, right? Like you just start wherever you start. And then once you become conscious of the need to leverage and grow by asking, you naturally begin to focus on increasing your earnings. As I said before, income tends to go up over time. So let's just say that there's this natural trend upward over your life for earnings. If you want to get on a steeper climb, and most of you do, you have to take lots of carefully strategized steps to get there. There are an infinite number of conferences, coaches, expensive training programs, and opportunities to learn how to earn money. Most business coaches spend 100% of their time coaching just this one step. I've been to those weekends where they pump hip hop music through the speakers and get on the stage and clap and cheer, and everyone gets so excited because earning money is very exciting for people. And yet it's really hard to get people interested in the other 6 steps of wealth. There are a lot of ways to earn money out there, and the supply of wealth in the world is infinite, but it always surprises me that people spend so much of their time on step 5 when there are 6 other steps. I'm sure you know someone who has made a mint only to lose it all, and that's because they didn't heed the other 6 steps to wealth. And because you're a profit boss, I know you won't let that happen to you. So now watch how the thread of the money operating system weaves its way through this conversation. I cannot tell you the number of times I've said to people, if you want to make more money, you have to grow your business, or if you want to make more money, you have to leave your job. And they protest. They give me the reasons I'm wrong or the reasons they're already trying and the reasons they can't. And this both tells me that they have a money operating system problem and, frankly, that they haven't decided to be rich. I think now that I've had a baby, I have even more compassion for and respect for people who choose a career in daycare or nursery school teaching. And I love my baby and I love being around my baby, and I can understand wanting to be around babies all day. They're so new and innocent and curious. It is totally mind-blowing. And yet I'm using this career choice as an example of being a problem for most people in the earning step of wealth building, especially in high-cost living areas. Working with young children really often just doesn't pay enough to pay the bills. It's a notoriously low-wage occupation. There are others like it, like social work and teaching, I mean, especially if you're a teacher in a school where you don't get a pension. We all know that these occupations are beautiful and noble but hardly compensated. And there's just no way around the fact that if you work in one of these occupations, your only options to grow wealth are pretty much to marry well or inherit or win money. In low cost of living areas, people who work in these occupations can keep their cost of living really low and still save and invest and grow their wealth and achieve financial independence. But in urban areas where the price of rents or cost of homes is very high, it's almost impossible. And that's really what I mean is like, some of you out there are probably in an occupation or maybe running a business or doing a thing that is never, ever, ever, ever going to pay you enough. And if that's the case, you only really have a few choices. As tough as it is to say, that you're going to have to move on or find some way to expand your financial life to do something else as a way to get compensated and maybe do that as a hobby or on the side or volunteer your time, it's valuable for you to hear it because it's a harsh truth, but it is the truth. So would you like to know how people who are rich got rich? There's data about that. There's data that tells us how wealthy Americans got wealthy, and it's split about evenly, a third, and a third. So about a third of wealthy people in the United States inherited their money. A third of wealthy people earned their money as employees of corporations, and a third of wealthy people earned their money as business owners. People get rich working for corporations that offer pensions and also private companies that offer good employee stock ownership plans. They also get rich working for companies with lucrative employee stock purchase plans, or they work for companies that go public, IPOs. Obviously, people get rich working as executives for companies that give them huge compensation plans that are a combination of cash and stock. And finally, people do get very rich working as employees of corporations where either one person has a high income or they both have either medium or high incomes and they just keep their spending really, really low over time. If you've read the book, those are the folks referred to in the book, The Millionaire Next Door. There's a lot of dialogue in the entrepreneur community that employees of companies can't get rich, and that just is not true. So if getting to financial freedom is getting from Earth to the moon, you need fuel to propel the rocket ship, and income is that fuel. You can earn income working for someone else or as a business owner. Many folks get to the point where they're earning income from their investments, and we'll talk about that in the next step. Start to think about earnings as some kind of intersection between your choices and your thoughts. If you went to law school, the earnings world could look one of a number of ways. If you're a law professor sitting in your office at the law school, it seems like that's your income capacity. But if you change your thought, like I could go start a big firm, suddenly your current limitation isn't your limitation at some point in the future. Most people focus on the decisions you make, like what school you go to and the grades that you get and the degree that you get. And some people focus just on the thoughts. Those are the people who say, just manifest it, right? Just think in a higher vibration and it'll come true, which of course doesn't work either. So I interviewed someone on Profit Boss Radio named Katie. It's episode 61. If you want to go back and listen, in her whole life, she worked in civil service. And there just is not much of a precedent for folks working in city government to go make six figures in startup land. But Katie did it through a combination of changing her choices and changing her thoughts. And you can hear her describe that in reality in episode 61. And we all know, for example, the stories of people like Sarah Blakely, the billionaire founder of Spanx, who started with nothing. And of course, Mark Zuckerberg, the billionaire founder of Facebook, who came from ordinary beginnings, although his ordinary beginnings also included Harvard, right? But as long as we live in a free market economy, any level of success is available to you if you want it. You can alter your thoughts or your choices, and you can have that. If you're in a community where there's no one like you making more money, move to a new community or get on the internet. If you don't have a technical skill, go get one. Do an internship or pay for an online course. Don't give up until you master the skill. Possibilities are everywhere around you when you start looking for them. And that's step 5. And now for step 6, invest. All right, I talk about this a lot on Profit Boss Radio, but when I start talking about investing, too many women check out. So just stay checked in with me here today, okay? So what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say stock market? That's right. It's risky, scary, unpredictable, something to be avoided, when in actuality, the stock market is the greatest creator of wealth in human history. The problem is that you've been educated through no fault of your own by the television news media. CNN, MSN Money, Jim Cramer, you name it. This cast of characters is always in your ear, screaming that something is going very wrong. And we relate to news anchors like they're good, trustworthy people. But ultimately, their job isn't to educate you or provide fair and balanced reporting. Their job is to compete with Keeping Up with the Kardashians and the Housewives of Beverly Hills. Those shows exist because they sell advertising. And in order to get you to tune in so they can sell advertising, they've got to grab you by the lizard brain and scare you. That's your amygdala. And those guys know exactly how to trigger it. The human brain experiences the same fear when it watches a stock portfolio fall as it does when being chased by a tiger. So I thought what I would do in this section is really to tell you the truth about the stock market that most people, in my experience, most people never learn. Is that okay? So here's the first association that you'll have to break. The news headlines are always dramatic and they're usually negative. I'm sure if you've heard that phrase, if it bleeds, it leads. And we're all pretty much of the opinion that things in the world probably aren't going that well. And we think the stock market parallels world events. So if bad things are happening, the stock market's probably going down. If good things are happening, even though they won't last, the stock market's probably going up for that short period of time. And so if you ask most people, are things more bad than good? They would say, yes, they're more bad than good. Therefore, I'm worried about the stock market. And that's kind of the unarticulated opinion about what in truth is, as I said before, the greatest creator of wealth in human history. So here's the point I want to make. Stock market performance is actually usually completely unrelated to what's happening in the news. And the truth is, you don't actually care what the stock market does, and you shouldn't care. I don't care. You shouldn't care. What you care about is what your money does in the stock market. So let's talk about the news events of the last century vis-a-vis what happened in the stock market. And let me make this point first, because this has to have the appropriate impact on you. We have to calculate your investing lifetime. It's customized to you. So picture in your mind your expected lifespan. How long will you live? 90 years? 95 years? 100 years? Longer? Pick a number. It's a guess, but we're living longer and longer. So let's just say you pick 100. Now take your current age and subtract it from 100. And the answer to that is your investing lifetime. So if you're 40, your investing lifetime is 100 minus 40 equals 60 years. If you're 30, it's 70 years. Now, why did I ask you to calculate this number? People often make the mental mistake of thinking they're done investing at retirement. A 40-year-old who wants to retire at age 65 will say, Hillary, why are we talking about a 90-year history of the stock market? I've only got 25 years. Time is running out. But your money has to outlive you. So you have to take the long view. You've probably got 40, 50 or more years to invest. So if you had invested $1 in the US total stock market in 1927, here are just some of the events you would have been invested through and during. The Great Depression, the German occupation of Europe, and a deadly Cold War, fear of communism and McCarthyism, President Kennedy's assassination, war and violence in the Middle East, a Cold War with Russia, Black Monday and a major market sell-off, the real estate boom and bust, and most recently, the financial crisis. Now, would it surprise you to know that through all of those negative world events, the stock market would have grown your $1 to 500x? So now that $1 is worth 5 G's, $5,000. And just to translate that for you into something you can probably get your hands around, if you had actually been able to put $100,000 into the US total stock market in 1927, you would now have $500 million. And yeah, okay, so the next century probably won't be exactly like the last century, but it'll be something like it. And maybe you don't have 90 years, but I know you'd take half of 500 million. I know you would. The point here is that while we relate to the stock market like it's really scary and unpredictable, it's actually really reliable if you know what to expect from it. And the days of relying on Wall Street to predict stock market gains have got to be behind us, because all of the evidence says that simply buying and holding a professionally constructed, well-diversified, low-cost, index-based portfolio is going to provide those returns, the returns of the global stock market for you. In my practice and with my clients, I'm providing kind of one step up from an index-based portfolio. I'm providing what are called asset class mutual funds that actually outperform their indexes over the longest time periods. And so my clients get to take advantage of that. And that really is step 6. Step 7 is protect. The idea of protecting your wealth, which is step 7, is often overlooked, but just as critical. It devastates me when people sit in my office with tears and tissues telling me about all the things they can't have because they lost their nest egg in the financial crisis. Losing something means it's gone forever. So nobody had to lose anything in the stock market. And clients who had an evergreen investment philosophy have all fully recovered and then some in this most recent impressive 8-year bull market. I mean, my retired clients did see a temporary dip in their account values, but nobody who was depending on that income failed to pay their bills or had to go get a job. I consider that to be my most critical job as a personal chief financial officer. Other tools to protect your wealth include the various kinds of insurance, and you should have, if you have kids, you should have life insurance. All of you who drive should have auto insurance. All of you should have health insurance, renter's insurance if you rent, homeowner's insurance if you own, and an umbrella policy, which can protect your assets if someone injures themselves on the sidewalk in front of your house, or if you happen to cause a 6-car pileup costing you, millions in damages, paying for all those fancy electric cars that are on the road nowadays. Too many people who are starting out forego insurance because it's an extra expense only to get, broken into or stolen from or have an apartment fire and they lose their physical possessions. And it's devastating. Nearly all of you who own real estate or any significant, especially after-tax assets, should have an estate plan, a revocable living trust. You get those from a lawyer. Instead of telling you why you should be diligent about estate planning, I'm going to tell you a couple of real-life examples without identifying traits. Or with identifying traits changed to protect the innocent about what happens when you don't pay attention. First story, a man and a woman that I know got divorced. They have kids together, so of course they have life insurance. And in the confusion and upset of the divorce, no one ever reviews their account and policy beneficiaries. This is something I always do for my clients, but neither of these folks were my client. I just heard this story after the fact. So they both get remarried. The woman even has another child with her new husband. Tragically, she's killed in a car accident. The life insurance company says, guess what? Her ex-husband is the beneficiary on the insurance policy. He gets $2 million. The new dad gets nothing. It would have taken 10 minutes to fix that, and nobody ever did it. Second, a client of mine has lost both of her parents in the last several years. The second one, very unexpectedly, and of course, she's totally devastated. She always knew that she would inherit their estate at some point, and they had even included her on meetings with the family attorney. After her father passed, things got much worse for her when she realized that the only copy of the estate plan she could find was actually unsigned and unnotarized. So people think that their attorney keeps a copy of their legal documents, but in practice, I find that's rarely the case. It's rarely the solution that you should rely on. Attorneys age just like clients do, and they die and they go out of business, and sometimes they're just not good record keepers. And in this case, she had to have the attorney subpoenaed. That person claims she cannot find the documents, the attorney, and now my friend is in probate court. It's really impacted her work because handling this issue is basically a full-time job. I mean, she's had to become an expert on things really she never should have had to even know about, instead of passing the estate to her directly because the estate plan wasn't complete. Now she has to go through a very complex and expensive process, including probate attorneys and the probate court. And instead of being able to take control of the money, she and her husband are out thousands of dollars out of pocket handling expenses. She can't even get into her parents' bank account to pay the mortgage or the utilities on the home that they owned. For many weeks, every time I spoke to her, she was just in tears. I mean, it was just added so much stress and anxiety to her life. So imagine if her parents had dotted their I's and crossed their T's. And we're working with professionals who literally work with checklists to make sure all these items are kept current. That trust document would have been signed and notarized, and everyone involved would have had a copy, including his attorney and advisors. The IRA beneficiaries would have been reviewed and updated, and the family home would have been cleanly titled to the trust. When her parents unfortunately passed on, the only thing she would have had to deal with is her grief and losing them. The IRAs, family home, and other accounts would have transferred to her far more easily. Settling an estate is never easy, but you can help minimize both complication and unnecessary suffering by getting it handled. So definitely protect your wealth. And that's really the 7 steps to wealth. If you master these 7 steps, eventually you will arrive at your destination, arriving at financial freedom and enjoying the fruits of your labor. The day you stop working is a really important day. Maybe it's the most important day in your financial life. On that day, you're betting that your nest egg is going to last longer than you. And there really is a lot riding on it. So, please don't go it alone. I am here to help and guide you, and I hope you'll stay subscribed to Profit Boss Radio as we move through these steps together. If you got value from today's episode, make sure you're subscribed to the show so new episodes will continue to land in your podcast player every Tuesday. Also, if you think this content is valuable, please, I'm asking you to do 2 things. First, nearly every podcast player has an option to share a specific episode. So would you share this with a woman you think highly of? I need your help getting the word out. So many women out there are dealing with this all on their own. Let's build a strong community. Finally, I'd love it if you'd go to iTunes and rate and review the show. Those reviews really help iTunes know that I'm giving you good content and that they should recommend the show to others. And when I'm feeling a little bit down and out, I admit, I go read those 5-star reviews, which are really just virtual hugs, and I give you all virtual hugs right back. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Profit Boss Radio. And this is just a reminder of my exclusive offer to you to use this powerful wealth planning financial dashboard that I offered you. So to take advantage and get access to your financial dashboard today, go to hillaryhendershot.com/emoney. I will see you next week.